de-facto Duke of Sussex, resigned last week from Sentebale, the charity he co-founded in honour of his late mother, Princess Diana. His chairwoman has now publicly accused Harry of harassment and bullying.
Really, what Prince Harry wanted to do was to eject me from the organisation, and this went on for months. It went on for months through bullying, harassment. When that failed, Prince Harry started to brief, and his team. Really, what Prince Harry wanted to do was to eject me from the organisation, and this went on for months. It went on for months through bullying, harassment. When that failed, Prince Harry started to brief, and his team, sponsors that I'd been speaking to against me. At some point on Tuesday, Prince Harry authorized the release of a damaging piece of news. And can you imagine what that attack has done for me, on me, and the 540 individuals?
The glossy fairy tale Prince Harry once spun about his beloved Sentebale charity? Yeah, that picture-perfect story has been shredded to bits. And not quietly, oh no. What was supposed to be a graceful exit from an organization he co-founded in memory of Princess Diana has spiraled into an ugly, messy public scandal. The kind of drama that has insiders whispering and fans gasping.
I think the whole situation is obviously very toxic and very difficult, and I'm sure there are, arguments on both sides about this.
Remember the good old days when Harry and Dr. Sophie Chanduka were plastered across magazines as the golden duo of Sentebale? Handshakes, staged photo ops, heartfelt speeches, radiant smiles, they looked unshakable. But here's the twist. Behind those polished smiles, the relationship was rotting. It wasn't some explosive blowout either. It was a slow burn, a simmering feud that turned toxic before anyone even noticed.
The whistle on issues including abuse of power, bullying, sexism, and racism. This is, of course, ironically, the exact same charge sheet presented by Harry and Meghan against the royal family, the media.
At first, Sophie was Harry's strongest supporter, a total rock for the charity. Professional, respected, deeply committed to Sentebale's African programs. But she says the tides turned when she dared to raise concerns. She started pointing out how certain decisions were being made, and instead of welcoming constructive debate, Harry allegedly flipped.
Anybody else who's ever dared to challenge him over the last 5 years. Harry is further accused of planting negative press stories to smear Dr. Chanduka, a claim he notoriously levelled without evidence.
Rather than addressing issues like a leader, Harry, if Sophie's version is true, began treating her not as a partner, but as an obstacle. Suddenly, the warmth cooled, the friendly exchanges thinned out, and subtle digs replaced genuine teamwork. The cracks were showing, and the foundation was crumbling.
It seems to me, looking at it from a distance, that the chair, Sophie Chanduka, is sort of using every possible...
And it didn't stop there. Sophie claims Harry's conflict style wasn't straight talk or compromise. It was strategy, strategic undermining. She says he started painting her as difficult, questioning her judgment and working behind the scenes to box her out. From being in the loop on every key decision, she was slowly erased, left out, isolated, silenced. Imagine pouring your life into a project only to be treated like a nuisance.
Pushed out, and is obviously very upset. It also does indicate a sort of terrible issue which you always have with...
But here's the kicker. Sophie insists Harry wasn't just disagreeing with her. She says he was on a campaign to ruin her reputation. A full-on behind-the-scenes effort to reframe the entire narrative. She was the problem, not the issue she was raising. This wasn't just workplace tension. This was a calculated strike at her credibility, maybe even her career.
He notoriously levelled without evidence against his family. The Sussexes have long weaponized victim culture and the self-certification of suffering.
And people around the charity could feel it. They didn't need words. The tension was thick in the air. Meetings turned cold, smiles got faker, and every exchange carried an edge. What was supposed to be about helping children became a high-stakes chess match. Control, reputation, influence.
People are jumping up on both sides, either to, defend them or to attack them. And also, somehow it seems that...
And let's be real. Once trust is broken at that level, there's no coming back. The once inspiring partnership between a prince and a powerhouse professional devolved into a silent war. Both sides watching, waiting, biding time for the next strike.
Rather delightfully being snared in their own trap. You might think hoisted by their own petard. And after the dismal performance of both Harry's Netflix Polo series and Meghan's god-awful Netflix lifestyle series,
now Sophie's words are explosive. She doesn't call this a spat, a disagreement, or even a feud. She calls it harassment and bullying at scale. Those are heavy accusations, especially coming from someone with receipts. And she claims Harry wasn't just a passive participant. He allegedly went out of his way to make her position unbearable.
This is the author of The Psychosis of Whiteness, Professor Kehinde Andrews. The Daily Mail columnist seemed to be joining Meghan Kelly at MK Media, Maureen Callahan.
It escalated, she says, into a systematic campaign. Not occasional arguments, not heated debates. No, this was deliberate, repeated targeting. Subtle digs, public undermining, humiliation in front of colleagues.
All around Adrian, welcome to all of you. Right, Maureen, you've been off the long run on this one. But it is ironic, isn't it, that here you have Harry and Meghan who've been dishing out.
And then came the total erasure. Invitations to meetings suddenly stopped. Important documents, her name mysteriously missing. Decisions made behind her back but presented as if she'd been consulted. Piece by piece, her authority was chipped away until she wasn't the chairwoman anymore. She was just a guest, and an unwelcome one at that.
Always going to be very difficult, and possibly the worrying thing from Prince Harry's point of view, I would say, is that people might think in the end that
It got so suffocating that Sophie started documenting everything. Every slight, every dismissal, every accidental exclusion. She built a record, a paper trail that could be devastating in court. Think about that. Harry, the same man who spent years denouncing bullying, now accused of it himself, with files and receipts that could explode his carefully crafted image.
Everybody from their own family to the media to any critic that's ever dared to take them on, that now they themselves have been accused of exactly the same stuff.
And Sophie swears Harry wasn't acting alone. His circle, his inner team, allegedly backed him up. The gossip sharpened its claws here. This wasn't a one-man operation. It was coordinated. Imagine being the head of a charity and walking into rooms where every eye says, "You don't belong." That's how Sophie describes it. If true, Harry wasn't just the compassionate prince. He was the ringleader of an ousting campaign. Calculated, cold, brutal. And the charity itself? It wasn't untouched. Morale reportedly tanked. Staff felt the tension. Even partners began whispering about the dysfunction. The fallout was seeping into everything, not just reputations, but the very mission the charity was supposed to stand for. If there's one thing Harry has sworn up and down he despises, it's the press turning against him. For years he's raged about leaks, smears, ruthless tabloids, painting himself as the forever victim. But Sophie's account flips that narrative on its head. She claims Harry didn't just play the media game, he mastered it, when it suited him. One Tuesday in particular, Sophie says Harry gave the green light for a hit piece. And not just any leak, it was allegedly crafted to make her look incompetent, unstable, and unfit to lead. When the article dropped, it wasn't some dusty blog. Oh no, it spread like wildfire in charity circles. Overnight, her reputation took a gut punch. And the hypocrisy? Chef's kiss. This is the same man who built his post-royal brand on denouncing media assassinations, and now he's accused of pulling the very trigger he condemned. For Harry, this isn't just bad optics. It's career kryptonite. Sponsors started asking uncomfortable questions. Donors grew distant. Emails that once buzzed with excitement for projects suddenly went silent. And Sophie? She was left reeling. A woman who'd built her career in advocacy felt the rug yanked right out from under her. And according to her, Harry barely blinked. She insists he even used the fallout to his advantage, painting her as unstable while positioning himself as the noble savior of the charity. But Sophie? She wasn't having it. She saw herself as a whistleblower, punished for daring to speak up. Her accusations? Bullying, harassment, misogyny, racism. And the most shocking of all, that Harry himself interfered with the investigation meant to address these claims. That's not damage control, that's a cover-up. And the power imbalance? Stark. On one side, Harry, a royal with global reach, Hollywood connections, and a polished public image. On the other, Sophie, a professional who believed in the cause enough to risk her career to call out flaws. In a fair fight, you'd expect truth to stand tall. But when one side controls the narrative, truth doesn't always get a microphone. And Sophie decided she wasn't going to stay silent. She wasn't going to be just another anonymous complaint filed away in some HR cabinet. She went public, with her name, with her story, forcing Harry to confront her allegations in the spotlight. Here's where it gets really messy: the race angle. Harry and Meghan have spent years leaning into their narrative as victims of racial prejudice, casting themselves as champions against systemic bias. But now, Sophie Chanduka, a black woman, is accusing Harry of enabling, if not participating in, prejudice within Sentebale. We're talking misogynoir, that toxic blend of racism and misogyny aimed specifically at black women. Sophie claims she lived it firsthand in the charity halls Harry co-founded. And the most jaw-dropping claim? That at one point, board members allegedly fretted about Africans taking over. Let that sink in. A charity devoted to African children allegedly hosting boardroom remarks dripping in colonial arrogance. The hypocrisy is nuclear level. And where was Harry in all of this? According to Sophie, not shutting it down. That's the bomb. The optics? Catastrophic. Imagine the headlines: "Charity helping African children faces racism claims at the top." This isn't just scandal, it's brand implosion. But if the boardroom gossip was explosive, the bitter polo incident was the moment it all went public. Picture it: a glossy high society charity polo match. Attendees expecting champagne toasts, dazzling smiles, and a prince exuding charm. Instead, they got front row seats to a royal unraveling. From the moment Harry arrived, the vibe was off. Cold greetings, stiff smiles, whispers rippled through the VIP tent when he bypassed longtime donors with no more than a curt nod. One major donor, who insiders say clashed with Harry over financial transparency, deliberately snubbed him. And then, on the field, it got worse. Harry's competitive streak tipped into aggression. At one point, he lunged into such a forceful play that he nearly knocked a Sentebale fundraiser off his horse. Gasps from the sidelines, cameras snapping, and Harry? He turned away with a scowl instead of checking if the man was okay. And it didn't end there. After the match, instead of smoothing things over with donors, Harry stormed off to a private tent. No winner's toast, no charm offensive, just sulking and snapping. Some guests swore they heard heated words exchanged between Harry and a senior rep. By morning, tabloids had their headline, "The Bitter Polo Bust-Up." For many, this was the tipping point. The private feuds had spilled into the open. And Harry? He was caught looking less like a noble prince and more like a man unraveling. Meanwhile, Meghan's projects weren't exactly helping the Sussex brand. Harry's glossy Netflix polo series, meant to showcase his passion, landed with a thud. Critics mocked it as elitist fluff for the 1%. Meghan's lifestyle series, equally lukewarm. Low viewership, low engagement. The magic was fading. And without the royal family drama fueling headlines, the couple's projects were floundering. That's why this Sentebale scandal is especially devastating. Instead of being the power couple reinventing themselves in Hollywood, they're back in the news for the worst possible reason: allegations of bullying, racism, hypocrisy. And now, Sophie has gone nuclear. She's not just airing grievances in the press. She's reported Sentebale's trustees to the authorities. That means lawyers, subpoenas, investigations, the whole courtroom circus. If her allegations hold, Sentebale could face fines, sanctions, maybe even leadership overhauls. Donors might bail to protect their own reputations. And Harry? For a man obsessed with controlling his story since leaving royal life, the thought of emails, texts, and internal memos being dragged into daylight has to be terrifying. Because let's be honest, once lawyers get involved, receipts always surface. And here's the cruel irony. Harry and Meghan built their brand on being truth-tellers, exposing injustice, standing against bullying. But Sophie's accusations flip the script entirely. Suddenly, they're not the victims, they're the accused. And for the Sussexes, the timing couldn't be worse. In California, insiders whisper Harry's become isolated. Fewer polo buddies, fewer red carpets, fewer invites. Meghan, meanwhile, leans harder into her solo ventures, rebranding, chasing wellness deals, building her empire. The optics? Meghan rising, Harry fading into a side character in his own marriage. For Sophie Chanduka, this isn't just a career fight. It's about reclaiming her name, her dignity, her voice. For Harry, it's a fight for survival, his brand, his reputation, his legacy. Because if Sophie's allegations stick, the fairy tale prince turned Hollywood outsider might not just lose Sentebale, He could lose the last shred of moral high ground he's been clinging to. And let's be real, once the public decides you're the villain, no Netflix special in the world can fix that.